Good night. Jason, are you hearing me? Good night.
Yes, Donnet, you're alive. We are hearing you, and it's all yours. The floor is yours. Go ahead, begin.
All right, pleasant good night to all. This is the end of our obesity prevention, childhood obesity prevention project for Rotary Year 2024-2025. And as you know, we would have had our Glow Run for obesity prevention Glow Run last week, Saturday night. It was a fantastic event. We had over 600 participants. And this evening, we have our collaborator, Fitma, which is owned by Jason. Now, let me just give you a little background about Jason before we start. Jason is a pilot turned transformation coach on a mission to help women fitter, healthier, and happier right from home. As the founder of FITMA, which is Fit Mothers and Wives, he created a simple, fun, and double approach to fitness designed for designed for busy women with no time or desire for the gym, like most of us who are workaholics, right? His signature program empowers women and wives to break free from exhaustion and frustration, and instead to build strength, confidence, and lasting energy one step at a time. So tonight, Jason, we appreciate you joining forces with the Rotary Club of St. Vincent to fight against obesity and to focus on childhood obesity program. So, Jason, take it over.
All right, Donnet, thank you so much for that warm introduction, and good night to everyone joining us on this broadcast. It is certainly a pleasure to be here. And we're going to spend some time tonight. We're going to look at childhood obesity. We're mostly going to be looking at how we could fix it through our knives, our forks, our baby bottles, whatever we're using. That's going to be our focus here tonight. So permit me to share my screen, and then we're going to take this show right on the road. So let us get this going, and you guys will be seeing my screen shortly. Right, it should be coming up there now. Lovely. Now, I want this to be an interactive session. So if you are you're on YouTube, I want you to comment. We're going to be looking at those comments. We want you to be engaging with us. And more importantly, if you have questions, because listen, it's a lot of information, a short period of time. And if you have questions, drop them in the YouTube chat and we'll get back you will definitely get back a response from us. And that you have all of the information needed there. Now, that being said, this is a presentation, as Donald mentioned, that is coming to you with the Rotary Club of St. Vincent and also FitMA. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick overview, as Donald has already covered, what we do here at Fit Mothers and Wives. And this really started out of COVID when the whole world was locked down and most persons had to put their normal life, including their health, on a bit of a back burner, especially gym goers. And so we just started some online classes free and try to get ladies moving. From that, we realized that there was a group which we have now identified as mothers and wives who really needed that additional help. And because they had the time to focus on themselves, they had the convenience of doing it from home, we saw great transformation. So we took this outside of COVID and brought it to where it is today. So we go around the Caribbean helping different ladies. Most of our programs are online. All of our programs are online, I would say. But we do have, from time to time, we have meetups where we would, meet with these ladies from a different parts of the Caribbean and help them with some in-person sessions. Now, there are three pillars that we focus on: fitness, nutrition, and accountability. Tonight, we're going to be spending a lot of time on the nutrition. Now, of course, we got to make our disclaimers clear. Now, this webinar is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace medical advice. Please consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your routine. Now, that being said, we teach from four primary sources. The first one is the Bible, because we believe that as created beings, we have a manual. And like everything that is created, your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and whatever you're watching me from right now, the manufacturer would have given you certain specifications and rules, regulations with which to follow to ensure that you get the most out of it. And once you follow those, you definitely will get. So, being a created being, we believe that the Lord has spoken through the Bible in terms of helping us to live a healthier life. We also teach from the inspired writings. The third one is good science, and the fourth one, and very crucial one, is experience. So, now we're going to jump straight into this thing with some stats. In preparation for this presentation tonight, I actually did some research, and I really wanted to see what was really going on. It's one thing you see it on the streets, it's one thing you see it in your community, it's the next thing you see it from the government boards, but I really want to see what the worldwide data had to say about this. And in the Caribbean as of 2022. So we're in 2025. Something these data are backlog because it has to go through a screening process. You have to gather the information, sift through, compile it, and then put together the findings. So as of 2022, I want this to sink in. 1 in 3 children in the Caribbean is either overweight or obese. 1 in 3 children in the Caribbean is either overweight or obese. And if we were to go a little bit deeper, the ages of those obese children would be, well, when you look at the ages between 11 and 13, 27% of those are boys, and 33% of those are girls. Now, in our CARICOM, between the ages of 5 to 9, this is just really coming out of the toddler age, starting to move and just starting school. We are seeing the obesity ranges go from 26% to 40%, and that will be dependent on the island, right? So different island has different obesity ranges, and this is the general consensus that we are seeing. Now, if we were to even look at Trinidad, and this is where I'm at right now, just for a few days, the obesity rate here under 5, the overweight rate is 11.4%. Now, school age 5 to 18, we are seeing 12% in 2021, but in 2018, that rose from 12% to 51% in a whopping 17 years, which is about the lifespan of some children from school to school. We see that there has been a 4-time increase in the obesity rate. And amongst our teenagers, that's 30%. Now, here's a striking fact. They have found, and this one is specific for Trinidad, but the rest of the Caribbean islands, I can tell you, St. Vincent, where we are from, is not too far behind. Nearly, and pay attention to this, nearly 80% of these kids consume fast food frequently, right? Nearly 80%. So the question must be asked. The question must be asked, is there some link between the foods being consumed by our young people and the rapid rise in obesity that we are seeing? Now, Trinidad and Tobago, and like I said, the Caribbean islands, we are not too far behind, but from a global point of view, Trinidad and Tobago ranks 9th highest for overweight children under 5. This is not over 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. We're not even talking about teenagers. We are talking about babies. Under 5, Trinidad ranks 9th globally for overweight children. And that is something that has to sink in. It has to awaken within us the question. We have to ask the question, why is this? Now, what if we did nothing about this? What if we just allow this to progress? Well, here's the thing. These are not just numbers. These are trends. These are indicators of what can happen if left unchecked, if left unchanged, of what we'll be seeing in not our old people for the next few years, but our younger generation. Because if this continues, by the time they become adults and we use an illegal age of 18 years old, we'll see higher rates of early onset in heart disease, which, by the way, is still the number one killer globally. We'll see early onset in type 2 diabetes. We'll see early onset in high blood pressure. We'll see early onset in fatty liver disease and anxiety and depression. And we are even seeing the anxiety and depression happening at an even younger age because you see, your mood, these things are determined, and there's a close relation. I'm sure you've heard the gut brain connection. So if your gut is off, your gut could be off by the healthy bacteria not being able to flourish as they should. And what throws these off? Eating processed foods, eating unnatural sweeteners, consuming artificial products. When these goes off, those feel-good hormones in the brain would also go down, which would cause the child to be depressed, right? So the foods we eat can actually affect our mood. And if, as we see, 80% consume fast food frequently, and we know as moms, we have dads on here tonight, to prepare a proper meal, you need to give yourself, you're doing a cook meal, a proper cook meal from start to finish, at least 30 minutes. If you're a really good chef, maybe 20 minutes. I'll give you 20 minutes. But definitely not the time that you would see from your order to your order being delivered at a fast food restaurant, which means those foods has to be processed in such a way that can facilitate fast preparation, and that is coming at the expense of your child's health. So now that we understand the stats, now that we understand what we are dealing with, now that we understand the magnitude of the situation that is at hand, we now have to put a plan in place to fix this. As parents, I know we have some kids on here tonight, we have some adolescents on here tonight. We have to now put a plan in place. And what I am going to do here, what we are going to be doing here, Fitma, the Rotary Club, we are empowering you the tools, the parents on here tonight, to take back control of your health. We do not want your child to become another statistic. No. You see, left unchecked, they will become another statistic. Left unchecked, they will probably make this chart. So we want to empower you with the tools. Why? Because if we empower you with the tools, you will then make the change in your child's life. When your child grows up with these healthy habits that we're about to unveil to you, they will then pass it on to their children. And even in their sphere of influence right now, they may be able to influence another child. And so we want this thing to spread like a good disease, not a bad disease, a good disease. We want this thing to spread so that all of these children can learn when they're out there, when they're in school, when they're in the playground, how to put together healthy foods. And that way, change the landscape because we want the generation that will be taken over to be a healthy generation, not just physically, but also mentally, and more importantly, spiritually. So, we're going to look at something we call the EAT method. And it's a simple three-step nutrition hack that makes clean eating effortless. Now, I want you to memorize this, right? So, EAT, EAT. Now, E stands for eat whole foods. And when we talk about whole foods, we'll get into what that is shortly. A stands for adjust prep, and we'll talk about that. And T stands for time it right. So eat whole, adjust prep, and time it right. Now, let's break this down piece by piece. We're going to take our time. We're going to go through this thing. We're going to try to finish this thing within 30 minutes. That's the promise I made to Donnet. So if I go over, I will have to find some reason for that, right? Now, let's start with the first E, eat whole foods. Now, what is whole foods? When you hear the word whole foods, type in the comments. What do you think? What comes to your mind when you hear the word whole foods? Let me give you guys like 30 seconds to bring this together. When you hear the word whole foods, jump in your chats. What comes to your mind? Okay, so the chats are coming together. Right. So let's pull this thing apart. Whole foods, just keep it simple, are foods that you would find in nature. So think when you look outside, or think in your cabinet right now. What are some of the foods? And if you're close to your kitchen, you can even run to your kitchen and type them in the chat. What are some of the foods that is sitting in your cabinet right now that you would actually find in nature? Let me give you some examples. Would you find apples in nature? Would you find corn in nature? Okay. What about cornflakes? Would you find that in nature? Okay. What about Vienna sausages? Would we find that in nature? What about Cheerios? What about Fruit Loops? Would we find those in nature? So let's break this thing apart. So anything, and let's make a little list, that we can find in its natural state, we want to consume most of that. Now, the reason we said 80% because we also have to be realistic. We know at all times it may not be easy for you to consume 80% of, sorry, 100% of the foods, right? Okay, here we have it here now. String beans, peanuts, nuts, right? We're seeing the actions coming in here on the YouTube channel, right? So these are, we have to leave that contingency for the days when you know you eat out, you have a little processed food. It is what it is. We have to also be realistic. So 80%. So that would be 5 days out of the week. We want to be eating whole foods. Examples of whole foods. Let's use the different categories. We will look at things as grains, peanuts, nuts, corn, ground provision. Let's think about some of the foods you have in St. Vincent. Ground provision. So that's our sweet potatoes, our yams, our edos, our dashins, our bhaji, our callaloo, our lettuce, our tomatoes. For the sweet tooth, that will be our fruits, our bananas, our berries, our grapes, our apples, as we mentioned. These are some whole foods. Now, we talked about cereal before. You will not find cereal in nature, but does that mean cereal is bad? Not necessarily. So, in the cases where it is not so straightforward, and I want you parents to pay attention to this. In the cases, and if you have a cornflakes box or some sort of meal in front of you right now, I want you to do this to me. In the cases where it is not so straightforward, then you would look at something called the ingredients list. What the ingredients list teaches us, what is inside of that food. What you want to see is one, maybe two at the most ingredients. What you do not want to see is 10 to 17 ingredients, half of the names you can't spell or pronounce, right? Because a cornflakes, for example, whole grain cereal may have corn, it may have oats, it may have peanuts, barley, seeds. It's a whole grain cereal. Think muesli, think granola. They have all of those things in it. But all of these things you can find in nature. You will find corn in nature. You'll find oats in nature. You'll find peanuts in nature. And they're combined into a cereal. That's fine. When we look to the back and we see things like high fructose corn syrup, this chemical, that chemical, this color, red number 2, red number 5, red number, blue number, those are the things you want to avoid because those are chemically altered foods. Also, you want to look out for this thing that says natural colors and natural flavorings. The word natural is just there to throw you off. There is nothing natural about those colors and those flavorings because they are all made in the lab. So, as we are going through this, I want you to pull out all of the foods that you have in the cabin and start looking at them. Right? So, that's the first thing we're going to be looking at. Eating whole foods. Now, let's bring this in a closer example. Look at the two pictures on the screen. Tell me what you see. There are two balls. Now, what is the difference between these two birds? And let me look in the chat. What is the major difference between these two birds? There are two, I'll give you the name. There are two parrots, right? From the same genetic family. But what is the major difference that you see there when you look at these parrots? Let's see. Let's see in the comments. Right, right. Okay, right. Of course. One of them has feathers and the other one is void of feathers. Okay, let's keep it going. There are two pictures of two trees, or let's say the same tree, but two different sides. One of the fruit, one of these sides is green. It is laden with fruits, and the other side is patch, as if the weather hit half that side and the other half was untouched. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Lovely. And I'm seeing the comments coming alive there in the chat. Now we have two loaves of bread, or two sides of the same loaf. What is the difference? Right. One of them is loaded with things we can identify, seeds, grains, and a nice healthy brown color. The other one is void, pretty much like what this tree looked like and what that bird looked like. So where am I getting at? This is what whole foods is. The foods on the left, the broad on the left, it is intact. It has all of its feathers. It is completed. The tree on the left, it has its fruits, it has its leaf, it is intact, it is completed. The food on the bread on the left, it has its grains, it has its seeds, and most importantly, all of the items on the left has life-giving properties. So when you consume them, what happens? This life is transferred to you, or we call it energy. This energy is transferred to you because they are living and this energy is transferred to you. Now, that being said, the one on the right, you already know exactly what to expect. They are void and they are dead foods, as we call them, which means when you consume them, they actually sap energy from your body to process them, to break them down, and in some cases, to expel the harmful byproducts from them out of your system. So one gives you energy, one takes away energy from you. Even though it may taste better, even though it might be more pleasing to the eye, that is what it does. And that is the difference between a whole food and a processed food. In processed food, that is where man believes that they are better than God and they can make the food taste better, rearrange the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals. But of course, we cannot outdo the Creator. The way the Creator designed it was for our benefit. And if we eat it as close to that state as possible, then we are going to get the most out of it. Make sense? If that makes sense, put in the chat. It makes all the sense in the world. Right. So now, right, we covered that. We are moving to point number two. And I want you guys to pay attention to this, right? Because once you cover these three steps, everything else that we'll do after this will make all the sense in the world. All right. Now, the first one was to eat whole. The second one was to adjust prep. Now, you could take a perfectly good food and mess it up by your preparation method. You see, the way you prepare the food will determine if the nutrients are kept intact. What do I mean? Well, there are multiple, in fact, let's use an example. So I have here two pictures. You see two pictures on the screen. On the left side, we have, some lightly grilled vegetables. On the right side, we took those vegetables, we put them in a batter, and we deep fry them. Same vegetables, different preparation method. Now, in the chat, you tell me which of these would you prefer to eat? The ones on the left, the grilled vegetables, or the deep fried battered vegetables. Both of them are from the same source. Let's even go a step further. Both of them are whole foods. Which one would you want to eat? Right, everybody says the one on the left. So my next question is why? Why do you want to eat the one on the left? Right, because all of its nutrients is intact and you're not adding any extra. So let me show you something. Even though both of these are whole foods, because by changing the preparation method, in this case deep frying, we add in batter, we deep frying it, deep frying is going to destroy some of the nutrients. Deep frying is also going to add some things that you do not want. Example, trans fat. When you heat oil to that level, it could cause arterial scarring, or arterial sclerosis over the long term. Mess with your arteries, mess with with your blood pressure over time, cause plaque to build up in the arteries. Over time could lead to some more serious problems. And the one on the left now, it's just lightly grilled. It still, for the most part, has all of the nutrients intact. And when you eat it, that nutrient is now transferred to you. So even though both of them are whole foods, the preparation method that we choose before consuming that food will determine if we get the most benefit out of that food. So, what are some preparations methods that we can approve? So, we typically approve most preparation methods. The ones that we tell you to steer from is obviously, as mentioned in the example here, deep frying and also barbecuing. And I'll tell you why barbecuing. You see, with barbecuing, the charring, that charring effect causes or is a carcinogen, which means it can cause or lead to cancer over the long term, right? So that is why we typically don't recommend barbecuing. The deep frying, of course, makes all the sense in the world. It destroys the vitamins and healthy fats. It also adds unhealthy fats that clog your arteries, as we mentioned earlier. And something we didn't even mention, it can actually create harmful chemicals that have been linked to disease, right? So it is like doing this, the same true using. Instead, now we're keeping all the fruits intact, but we're burning them. And of course, no one will want to eat apples looking like that side on the right because most of the healthy stuff is taken away and a lot of bad stuff is added to it, right? So we're building. Now, as we mentioned, these are some methods that you can actually use. Steaming. Steaming actually is a great one, especially for vegetables. It keeps the vegetables' nutrients intact. Also, it helps the food to absorb better because vegetables, for the most part, except for lettuce, needs to be steamed until slightly tender so that they can be broken down and absorbed. The human digestive tract is not like the cattle, for example, that has a two-step digestion system and when they eat they're able because of their enzymes and so forth to break down and absorb everything from the food because of some of the plant fiber. If we eat it in its raw state, we will not get as much from it as if we were to steam it, right? So just something there to note. Vegetables, if you steam them, you'll tend to get more from them. Now boiling, of course, that is great for stews and soups, and it also helps the food to be digesting. Baking, right? And when we say roasting, I don't want to be confused with barbecuing. So just for the purpose of this one, let's just take it out, right? So steaming, boiling, baking, even raw for some foods, and a new popular one is air frying. I personally use air frying a lot. I really like air frying because it really helps to give you the benefits of almost a fried food without the negative effects of a fried food, right? So we're making some progress. And here's the last one. The last one now is to time it right. So we got the whole food, 80% of our foods, whole foods. We eat in whole. We are adjusting the preparation, making sure we keep the nutrition intact. And the last part is to time it right. Now, as you guys saw earlier, I come from an airline background, right? So let's imagine that we were all going on a trip and we're going to go from here, we're going to go from St. Vincent to Trinidad, right? And your responsibility is to fuel the plane for me. I'm saying, listen, I'm running a little bit late. I just need you to go and organize the fuel for me. Now, the company asks you, or the fueler asks you, when do you want to take the fuel? We have companies here, we have in Trinidad. When would you like to take the fuel? Before we leave St. Vincent or after we get to Trinidad? Now, when will you take most of your fuel? At the start of our journey to Trinidad or after we get to Trinidad? Let me see in the comments. When would you tell that guy to put the fuel on? Here in St. Vincent or after we get to Trinidad? Right. Now everybody says here in St. Vincent. Obviously, I wouldn't even ask you why, because you obviously need to get that fuel so that we can make the trip, right? Perfect. So we fuel up at the start of the journey. Now, how does that apply to our life? Well, here it is. Just like the plane's journey is starting from St. Vincent and ending in Trinidad, they're going to take most of their fuel at the start in St. Vincent so that they can make it to Trinidad. When we wake up in the morning, that is the start of our journey. When we go to sleep at night, that is the end of our journey. Like the plane, we want to ensure we consume most of our foods early in the morning and the least of our foods late at night. That way, we would help the system to work better. So let us bring this into a little example. Like I love pictures. Now, look at the food on the left, right? Would you say, and put in the chat, as I say, I like to see the interaction. Put in the chat for me. Would you say that the food on the left is a healthy food? Or the foods on the left are healthy foods? Yes or no? Okay, everybody says yes. I agree with you 100%. Now, would you say the foods on the right are healthy foods? Everybody says yes. I am there with you. Listen, guys, I agree with you 100%. So we check number one, which is eat whole foods. Excellent. Lovely. Now, let's go to checkpoint number two, adjust preparation. Looking at these foods, would you say that these foods are prepared in a healthy way? The foods on the left and the foods on the right. Yes, okay, lovely. I am right there with you, Carissa, Joy, Gwendolyn, Ronell, Teaching Essentials. I'm seeing some of the names here. I am right there with you. I agree with you. So we have check two of the three points in the EAT acronym. Lovely. Now I want you to pay attention to me, and I'm going to paint the picture for you. If you look at the back window on the left picture, that is the sun coming up. If you look at the back window on the right picture, I'm going to just insert it here for you. That is the moon. And let me give you some time. The left picture is 7 o'clock in the morning. The right picture is 10 p.m. at night. Now that you have the context, what is wrong with this? They are consuming the same amount of foods, two families, different periods of the day. Now, at 10 p.m. at night, what are most of us doing or preparing to do? Let me see it in the chat. Exactly. We are prepared to go to sleep. Some of us go to sleep before that. So if you are going to sleep with this quantity of healthy foods that is organic, that is whole food, that is prepared in a healthy manner, would that food be as beneficial to you compared to consuming it at the start of the day? Yes or no? Obviously not. Why? Because you see, just like the plane, we are packing up. We have finished our journey. We are getting ready to go to sleep. And what does the body do when it's sleeping? The body repairs itself. So if the body has to focus on digesting all this food, when would it have time to repair itself? Well, that repair time will be drastically reduced, which is why when you eat a heavy meal and go to sleep, you wake up feeling more hungry because the body is so busy digesting the food, it has no time to repair you and it has no time to rebuild you so the next day you can feel refreshed. The hunger is from the body working all night, which means when it should have been resting, the stomach is actually working. So it is now ready for a replenishing or refueling, right? So once you understand these three concepts, then everything else makes all the sense in the world. Everything else makes all the sense in the world. And here are the key points. The heaviest meals early in the day. Typically, your body will process carbohydrates better before 12 p.m. and the lightest meals before bed because that's when you're winding down. You want to make sure that your meals are easy to digest and your body could focus now on repairing itself. So I'm just going to end with this slide. And I want to show you guys this slide just to make it a little bit easy for you. This is what we call the perfect plate, right? This is what we call the perfect plate. Half your plate should be, and I'm giving you guys the general overview. Half your plate should be fruits or vegetables. Half your plate, fresh fruits or vegetables. A quarter of your plate should be proteins. And the other quarter will be your grains slash carbs. And we use them interchangeably. So this way, you are getting a balanced meal. And I want to show you guys a couple of examples of what this will look like in real life, right? So let me just switch my screen here a bit. I'll actually share one of the documents that we use here in Fitma. So let me just bring that up here for you on the screen. Right, perfect, lovely. So let us bring this now into real life. So we are talking about breakfast. Half of your plate, what do we have on the plate there? Call it out for me. I know you guys can see it. Lettuce, right? Half of your plate, that's your vegetable, lettuce. A quarter of your plate, it is going to be something like scrambled eggs. If you're a plant-based, which we'll have that discussion next time, but if you're a plant-based, that would be beans, that could be scrambled tofu, right? Anything like that. And then to the bottom, that will be a whole grain toast, for example. This is just an example. A part that we did not mention is that a small portion of that, typically a closed fist, should be some sort of healthy fats. So in this picture here, we have some nuts. Now, this could also be some avocado. It could be a healthy homemade dressing. All these can be an example of it. Now, if you're having cereal, let's just break it down a little bit. So let's say this was your whole grain cereal. That would be your carbohydrates. Your milk would typically use a high protein milk we typically recommend something like soy milk, or if you're intolerant to soy, then almond milk or any other plant milk. For the normal milk, low fat or skim, because I want to again make sure that we protect against going over on the fats. So that will cover your protein, your carbohydrates, and a little bit of the healthy fats. And for the greens now, you can do things like superfood powders. Like for example, there are some things called green superfoods, and they have them in a powderized format right now. Things like spirulina, chlorella. You can actually sprinkle that to give you that greens. Additionally, if you are having fruit that day, then you could have chopped fruits in that meal, right? So this is a general meal overview, okay? Now, if you're doing something for lunch, it could be quarter of your plate will be your protein. In this case, we have a chicken breast there or chicken leg quarter. Also have some beans there. Another quarter is rice, brown rice, basmati rice, that sort of stuff. On the right side, half of the plate is salads, and then in the middle we have some avocado, which is our healthy fats. Right? I'm not going to touch on the shakes. I'm just going to keep it simple today. For the plant-based option, that would be your beans, same rice, same avocado, and same of the vegetables, right? And this is the next example of lunch. Now, once you follow these methods, it becomes really easy, right? It becomes super easy. It makes eating a lot more workable for you because once you understand the template, right? Once you understand the template, then all you are doing now is plugging and playing into it. So let's say kids, we go to school tomorrow, went to school tomorrow. Mommy is going to pack lunch for us in the morning. First thing, in fact, we should challenge mommy or daddy to follow something like this tomorrow morning. Let's put some examples. In fact, let's go right in the chat right now and just give me one example of what a healthy breakfast would look like. A kid's healthy breakfast, the mom's here. Let me give me an example of what it probably has, what it has been, and then what you would make the changes from what you learned tonight in your breakfast for tomorrow for your kids. So we're gonna pack some breakfast for them. For the half of the plate, what we're gonna use? We're gonna use fruits or we're gonna use vegetables. If it is fruits, which fruits are we using? So we're gonna build this plate here tonight, a full day for tomorrow, so that we have our kids prepared and off the right start. So what is gonna be our fruits or vegetables for tomorrow? Okay, so I'm seeing some grapes, I'm seeing apples, bananas. Perfect. So that is covered. Now, what about our grains or carbohydrates? That's the quarter here for the carbohydrates or grains. What would you be using? Okay, granola, that's a perfect option. Whole grain cereal, that's a perfect option as well. Just make sure maintain that pattern. And then what about the protein? Okay, I see boiled eggs. I see scrambled eggs. Perfect. And just a little pointer, when you're doing these scrambled eggs, as much as possible, stick to the real oils. So that would be like our olive oil, virgin olive oil, coconut oil, oils that we can, find here, oils that we can identify. um, when you are making those. Boiled eggs, then you don't have to worry about that. Okay? And what about our healthy fats? Nuts. Perfect. Now, if your kids is allergic to nuts, obviously that would be a different option. You would probably want to go with something like avocado. Or if you're doing eggs, then you already have some of the healthy fats in there, so you don't need to add it outside of that. All right? Lovely. Now, let's go on to lunch. Let's go on to lunch. We're going to prepare a lunch for your kids tomorrow. Half the plate, we already did fruits in the morning, so we can now do some vegetables. What are we going to put in the vegetable section? Think about the vegetables that your kids love. And if they don't love vegetables, don't worry, we can retrain them for that. What are some of the vegetables we're going to put in the kids' lunch bag tomorrow? Don't you could give me some answers here on as well. I know you don't have young kids, but hey, we can still work it out. Okay, lettuce, carrots, perfect, right? So that's half our plate. What about their grains or carbohydrates? What are we going to give them? Okay, rice, sweet potato, lovely. I love that. And what about our protein? Chicken, we have beans, chana. Okay, perfect. And our healthy fats, again, we can put a slice of avocado there. We can put a healthy wholemeal salad dressing. We can put that in there as well. Or in extreme cases, we could use, for those of us eating the animal-based protein, we'll use the healthy fats in there to combat that. Okay? Lovely. So looks like we have the basic concept, and the last one, of course, is dinner. Now, for dinner, you just want to keep it light. And as much as possible, try and eat dinner earlier, 3 hours before bed. So if your kids go to bed at 9 o'clock, by 6 o'clock, they should have eaten dinner. And again, it's not going to be a perfect science. One thing I want to leave with you guys is that if you don't get the full eat whole foods, adjust, prep, and time it right. At least start with one, right? If you're just going to focus on eating whole foods, start there, build there. Then you can work on the adjusting preparation, and then you can work on the time it right. I don't expect you to go straight off the bat and do this all tonight, but at least work on one, build that habit, strengthen that habit, and then move to the other. That way, it will be more sustainable, it will be more long term, and it will be something that your kids will enjoy, you would enjoy, and your medical bills would obviously be gradually reduced. So, let me wrap it up now. I see I've gone a little bit over time. Sorry about that, Danette. I hope that the information that we shared with you tonight was valuable. And more importantly, that you are going to implement it. That is my thing for you. Implement this. I want you to implement this tonight. I want you to implement this for the rest of your life. You have these pictures here. Again, Donnet will be doing a lot more of these, sharing all these information, sharing all these webinars so that you guys can always come back. This is going to be here on YouTube. You can come back, you can watch it, and you can implement it. And there's a lot of information, but listen, started it one step at a time. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So thanks again. I'm going to have to wrap it up now because of the time. I would love to stay longer, but hey, you guys have school tomorrow, you have work tomorrow. I'm going to turn it back over to Donnet. And Donnet, it is all yours.
Thank you, Jason. A great presentation. I learned a lot, right? So now I know how to fix meals for my children. I'm not too sure if anybody has anything to say before we officially close off. Any questions? Any clarifications required from Jason? I'm not seeing any. All
So if
right,
you guys
great.
have
So
any questions, you can
Jason,
just, yeah, they could just
yeah.
drop it to the Zoom and then we'll always come back in, or they could speak with you directly and we could always do a follow-up.
All right, great. But I have Ramona here with me, Rotarian Ramona, and she's gonna do the thank you.
Hi, good night, everyone, and good night to you, Mr. Jason. I listened in on your session tonight, and I must say that it was quite informative. And I am sure, based on what I'm seeing here on the YouTube chat, it was quite engaging as well. I'm seeing the responses so far. And I just want to say thank you for such an informative session. Truly, you have simplified all that information, and I'm so happy that you provided us with pictures so we can have a clearer idea of how we can plan our meals for ourselves as well as our children. So I just want to say again, thank you and have a pleasant evening.
You're most welcome and thanks for having me.